had 5 players with the Houston Colt 45s when I was there in '64. One guy was named Pete Reynolds, who was American League batting champion. Another guy by the name of Nellie Fox, who only got 200 hits every year. Yeah, they were 199 singles, but he got 200 hits every year. Right? And then there were 3 other players who were National League players. Eddie Casco was our regular shortstop. Bobby Lowe's, our utility end, and Al Spangler. They would take me on, every time we hit a new town, they took me along with them and said, you need to know about this restaurant. Well, he said, you're going to have a long career and you need to know. So I joined them, and after we'd get through eating, we would all go to the bar. I don't know why, but we all went to the bar, and all they talked about was hitting. And I listened to them. They had their own theories about hitting, and hitting with men on bases and without anybody on base. And I listened, and I kept thinking, is everybody that way? And they said, yes, everybody's that way. And I started taking all of the notes that they talked about and everything else, and that was my theory of how I'm going to pitch other hitters. And it worked. Of course, having Seifert, Kuzman, and Ryan didn't hurt either.
JC, you were with the White Sox. You came to New York in one of the biggest trades in Mets history, along with Tommy Agee. They traded Tommy Davis to the Chicago White Sox. What were your thoughts when you came to the New York Mets, a team that over the first 7 years was to lose 737 ball games? What do you think?
Well, that's what I came to. Being with the White Sox for 8 years, we'd never finished in the second division. We finished second 3 times behind the Yankees, the dreaded Yankees. After I found out, I told my wife, I said, save all the money you possibly can, because we'll never be in the playoffs with this bunch of misfits. We'll never win any money in the playoffs, so save your money. And in 2 years, we were world champions. So little did I know that the Lord put me in a spot that He wanted me in, and it was just wonderful to get over and see this bunch of guys that really wanted to win, and a pitching staff, bar none, was the best.
Ron Taylor, you had World Series experience with the Cardinals. They came back to beat the Yankees in the 7th game of the 1964 World Series. What was your experience coming to New York? Were you as depressed as JC was?
I like New York, and we still go there a lot. For other reasons, but I really liked what I was doing.
If you could speak into the mic.
I'll pick him up.
Okay.
No, he was our sage in the group, as you know. He was the chemical engineer. He was, for the young pitching staff with us, the old head that would kind of speak straight to us, get our feet on the ground, give us a little self-confidence, and as you know, when you're a short man like he was, you had to have courage to go out there each and every time, and I think he instilled that confidence in the rest of us. But yeah, he played with some great staffs, and I think once he came over, he was happy to be with all we punks.
Duffy, you had a great college career at Arizona State, which was one of the great baseball factories in colleges and universities. Reggie Jackson, Sal Bando, terrific. And now you're one of these young players now. This group of players with sages like Ron Taylor, Ed Charles, eventually Don Clendenin, who provided a lot of leadership.
Yes. 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 I was just in awe of being in the major leagues in '69. I had come up for a month in '68, the month of September, and got in one game. So in '69, when I made the club, I was just in awe of being in the big leagues. And so for me, it was quite different early in the season. I was just excited to go on the road and see all these stadiums that I'd heard so much about, getting a chance to play in Forbes Field and Crosley Field and all these stadiums that as a kid I had heard so much about. And of course it was nice to, when I was in Little League, I used to watch Jerry catch in Houston, and I used to watch Ron pitch in St. Louis, and I had their baseball cards, and when I got there in '69 I was able to get their autograph. So that was one of the biggest thrills for me. But in all seriousness, it was a great learning thing for me. And I must admit, Jerry and JC did a great job of helping me along, learning, talking about hitters, how to pitch to them. And of course, Joe Pignatano did a great job of helping me. I was with him a lot. He was really helping me. He taught me how to water tomatoes. And no, Joe, we sat on a bench a lot and we talked about catching. So I learned probably more about catching just sitting on the bench and in the bullpen, and how to work pitchers. Most important job for a catcher, I feel, is learning your pitching staff, learning each one individually, how to try and handle them. Some you have to kick in the butt, others you have to pat on the back all the time, and get to know their personalities and that, and handle each one a little bit differently. And that's tough as a rookie when you don't know them very well. But JC especially really helped me a lot, because we sat out in the bullpen quite a bit, and he knew them a lot better than I did. So I did get a lot of help my rookie year just from listening to these two guys. And of course we had a great catching coach in Piggy, and a great pitching coach who was a former catcher in Rube. And of course Gil did some catching also. So we had a lot of people that could help as far as helping me defensively. Offensively, Yogi was our hitting coach, and I'd go up to him and say, Yogi, what am I doing wrong? Or what do you think I need to do? And he would say, see the ball and hit the ball. Yeah, so it was exciting for me just to be around.
Jack Deloro started the 1969 season in AAA with Ty Porter at that time, and then got the call to the major leagues. Jack, where were you when you were told you were coming to the Mets?
Not real happy. I'll be honest with you. I spent 6 years with Detroit in minor leagues. And during the winter, Whitey Herzog picked me up, traded me for a catcher, Hector Valier. Detroit wanted a catcher, so they offered 3 guys, me and I forget who else. And Whitey says, I'll take that guy. Mainly, I pitched well against the AAA Jacksonville team. The Mets were down there in those days, so I went to spring training. Fortunately, when I got picked up, I wasn't happy. I thought, to be honest with you, some of us have egos. Mine's bigger than most of them. And spending 6 years with Detroit and winning as many games as I did in minor leagues, an article was written in the Beacon Journal. That's Akron, Ohio. Beacon Journal said if the Detroit said Deloro cannot throw a fastball through a mile of peanut butter, therefore he won't get to the big leagues. Well, I couldn't. So when I got picked up by the Mets, I'm thinking, holy Moses! I mean, look at their staff. And I pitched against these guys for, off and on, a lot of them for 3 or 4 years in the minor leagues. And I watched the development of Seaver and McGraw and McAndrew. I never saw that old guy at all. But I love him to death. He's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart. Really, he really is. Jim's one of the nicest right-handers I've ever met. Anyway, so I go to the Mets, and I'm thinking, oh, crap. So we go to spring training, and I got to pitch in a B game, which I never did. Well, I did against, years prior to that, against the Japanese team that come over and played in Detroit. And I got to pitch in that, but I got to pitch in a B game. This was so important to me. JC caught me. Charles was on third base. And I think Swoboda was playing outfield. This was a B, not an A game. I pitched 5 innings of shutout ball. I think I struck out 4 guys, had a bunch of ground balls and pop-ups. The game's over. We come in, and JC's us. Mr. Martin said, I'll see you in a little bit later. And what he meant was, you'll get there. And I started out with the AAA club extremely well. And, okay, here we go. I got called up because one of the best pitchers in baseball had to soak his finger in pickle juice. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And also, he had pulled that, you're not allowed to say this word nowadays. Nolan pulled a groin. And I got a phone call from the Mets, you're coming up. And I was in bed, John Matlack, I was the old guy. You gotta understand, AAA, I was the old guy. I was the oldest, at that point in time, the oldest rookie at 25, soon to be 26 years old, the Mets ever had up to 1969. So I really wasn't a kid, but I was ignorant. John Matlack was my roommate because I was the old guy and I had to watch over him, right? Yeah, right. So I got a call from my AAA manager who says, Jack, you got called to the big leagues, meet me down in the restaurant. I said, sure. So I hung the phone back up and went back to sleep. True story. John says, you going down? I go, what for? This is a joke. I don't know who that was. So I lay down. 15 minutes later, he said, hey, Delora, where the hell are you? I'm sending you to the big leagues. I go, really? And I cried. Am I doing it now? But it was it. The best thing that happened to me in pro sports was being with these guys. Like Duffy said, you learn so much from the old farts. Taylor, Cardwell, Bless, oh my God. Eddie Charles would come to me and say, kid, I was only a few years younger than you. Kid, keep your eye on what the hell you're doing and listen to what these guys are talking about. They know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Brody bitched at me for, how many months was I there? 5, 4. Hey, kid, throw the ball here. Throw the ball here. Don't throw it up here. Don't throw it down here. When I give you this finger, don't do this. Don't throw it. I crossed, I do talk a lot. I'm Italian. I don't know who I was pitching against. I changed, runner on first base, 1 out, but whatever. Jerry calls a fastball. You don't remember this crap. I do because I caught hell for it. I've never had a catcher run out to me and say, what? Don't you ever do that again. he called a fastball, I went up and threw a changeup. Jerry comes out of the catcher's box after the ball, almost got hit by the bat. The guy started to swing at it. He caught the ball, the runner didn't go, he comes out to me. And that's what he said, "Don't you ever damn do that to me again." He could have got hurt, and I made him look bad. So, okay, I'm done. I'm sorry.
Jim McAndrew, the old saying, you could have sued for non-support. What was the deal when you'd go to the mound and they never score for you every year?
Hey, we know all the guys go out there every day to do their best. I just drew the short straw on a lot of those days. They were all always doing their best. But Jack's talking about Nolan and the pickle brine. How technology has changed, because I feel I let my teammates down in '69 because I had a great spring. Gil had a lot of confidence in me, which I didn't have in myself. I came out of the blocks terrible. And then in late April, I finally started to throw the ball well. Tim McCarver hits a ground ball back up the middle in St. Louis. I stick my hand out to catch it barehanded. Goes through my bare hand, bruises my middle finger. And Gus Mock, so I wouldn't miss turn in the rotation, because it bruised the middle finger, stuck my hand in a whirlpool for 3 days. I make a start 5 days later in in Chicago, pitching well through 5 innings until in the 5th inning, I threw the end of my finger off. It was so soft and my tissue was so soft and I felt the blister coming, but it was so soft that instead of just having a blister, I threw off 4 layers of skin, and a month later, I could finally throw again. So I lost, another month of the season. So as I look back in retrospect, I let Gil down, I let my teammates down, and I guess I let myself down. But as far as run support, hey, you go out there, you do your best every day. I remember Tom Seaver giving me encouragement when I first got called up, because as you say, when you're throwing on the staff with Ryan, Seaver, Koosman, 3 of probably the 5 hardest throwers in the game at that particular time. If you didn't throw the ball through a wall, we had this kind of inferiority complex, I guess is what I'll call it. And I'd lost, I think, my 4th ball game, either 1-0 or 2-0. And it was again, it was the 2-1 game against the Pirates. And I pitched a pretty good ball game, but Tom actually came over to me afterwards and he says, hey, great game. And I said, I lost. And he says, well, do you think you pitched better than the guy on the other team? He says, look at the lineup you faced. He says, I think you did a hell of a job, kid. So as far as the vote of self-confidence from a teammate, it made me feel like for the first time I belonged, because until then, I didn't feel like I belonged.
Great story. Jerry, we got to talk about July the 9th, 1969, against the Chicago Cubs in the game that became known as the imperfect game. Tell us about it, because he was unbelievable that night.
That's an understatement.
I'm sure it was. I can't imagine what your experience was like catching.
You get to the point where when Seaver walks out on the mound, you're looking at a 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 ball game with him on the winning end and 15, 20 strikeouts on any night. And the interesting thing about that is couldn't follow up the next night with the same stats. In fact, we were in LA one series where their pitching was as good as ours, and in 3 games, the 2 teams together had less than 10 hits in 3 games. That's the kind of pitching we were used to getting from our guys, but the other teams would rise up and do the same thing. So Tom, anytime he walked out on the mound, I'm surprised that he didn't throw more no-hitters or more almost perfect games than he did.
It's amazing that he didn't throw a no-hitter till after he left town.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
And was probably 4 or 5 miles an hour short at that point.
Was he in a different zone that night with Jimmy Qualls and the Cubs?
I don't think he was in a different zone with them. He just made more good pitches that night. But to Jimmy Qualls, he made 3 mistakes. The first time he hit a ball harder than the second. The second time up, he hit a line drive to right field. And in the third, in the going out, before we went out in the top of the ninth, I said, same thing that we're trying to do. He says, yep, we were trying to pitch the ball on the way. And neither time, any of his 3 at-bats did he get the ball all the way. The hit that Qualls got was up and away. And he just reached out and slapped it to us.
Jerry and Duffy, to you. Talk, if you will, each of you caught the 1-0 games in Pittsburgh. Another sign that it was destiny that the Mets would do what they did. 1-0, the pitchers driving the runs. Koosman, who was a terrible hitter at the time, drives in a run. Cardwell, who was noted for his hitting, he drove in a run. 1-0. Duffy, what do you remember about that doubleheader in Pittsburgh?
Oh, I remember that very well. That's when I started to believe we were going to win the whole thing. That after that doubleheader, and I was personally so proud because that was the first shutout I had ever caught in the major leagues. And for a catcher, that's like going 4 for 4 practically. So that was just an amazing performance by both Koosman and Cardwell. And of course, we never heard the end of it from them about them driving in the only 2 runs of the game. Well, no, they can't. There was always a battle with two. There was always a battle between Seaver and Koosman, who was the best hitter. And anyway, that's neither one of them could hit. But they did get better. Koos did get better because he was terrible when he first came up. He was bad. Tom was.
He couldn't have got worse.
Well, that's true. But that day, 1-0 in Ford Field was, I thought, for me, that was the day I started to believe, hey, we can do this. We really can, because they had a great lineup, and to shut them out twice in the same day. And that just shows how much everybody contributed from the ball club, because Don, he didn't get, he wasn't in the regular rotation. For him to step in and to shut out the Pirates, that just shows how much everybody contributed to the ball club. And for me, that was the turning point.
JC, you're frozen in history. Right after Swoboda makes the catch, the game goes to extra innings. The Orioles have tied the game on that play. And we go to the 10th inning, and you're going to bunt. A play now that I believe is outlawed by the analytics crowd. But at the time, you're going to bunt in the 10th inning of a tie game in the World Series Game 4. Take us through the at-bat. And did you run inside the lines?
Well, manufacturing runs was a White Sox best play.
Absolutely.
And I had been used to playing that type of ball for
Small
8
ball.
years.
Yep.
And so when I came over here, and Gil said, Jay, I want you to change strategy when they change pitchers. Dick Hall was pitching, and I went in to pinch hit for Tom Seaver. And they changed pitchers and put in Pete Rick, a left-hander. And Gil came all the way out of the dugout to on a deck circle, and he said, Jay, let's change strategies. Let's bunt the ball, give us 2 outs to get in the winning run, and keep the ball away from Brooks Robbins. And you can see why he said that when you watch the World Series. And so that was my type of play. I didn't hesitate, bunted the ball, and the winning run scored after the ball hit me and went into right field. Nobody wants to bunt in the World Series. But Gil said, bunt. And so I bunted. Years later, I went to so many old-timer games in New York because of that lousy bunt. They would call all these players that had done something in the World Series to come and play a game. And there would be Maris and Mammal and me. And so that bunt got me back to New York more than if I'd have hit a home run.
We thank Jack DeLauro, Duffy Dyer, Terry Brody, J.C. Martin, Peter Sanders, Ron